Good afternoon, Musketeers. It's November 9th, 2018. I'm Nick Walker.
And I'm Ian Young. This is Xavier News.
From the Xavier University Television Studio, this is Xavier News. Your campus, your region, your world. This is Xavier News.
On average, Americans fight with over 70,000 wildfires every year. With this big talk on climate change, scientists are saying wildfires will be more of an occurrence for our younger generation. According to U.S. News, quote, rational and ethnical minorities are significantly more vulnerable to the effects of these natural disasters, end quote. They looked at communities that are less adapted to wildfires, like places with low poverty and older and younger people. After they collected that data, they compared it to 70,000 U.S. Census tracts and compared it with areas potential for wildfire to receive the results on wildfire vulnerability. Over 29 million people have the potential for wildfires, and land managers prioritize these areas to make sure they don't occur in the future. Members and agencies of the NGO are looking to reduce this, but they are very hard to control due to how natural they are. Let's work as a nation to help those that are more vulnerable to wildfires and give back to those people.
This upcoming Sunday will mark 100 years since the end of World War I, with an official Remembrance Day and 2-minute silence in honor of the fallen soldiers. History, in all its blissful subjectivity, has a tendency to undercut the achievements of those whose voices are not deemed to carry as much importance. Little is known about the servicemen who gave their lives to the war effort. During the 20th century, the Caribbean was still governed by the British Empire. According to Gemma Handy of BBC News, the British West Indies Regiment was formed in October 1915. 16,000 men and women of color enlisted from the Caribbean. 1,200 lost their lives in defense of foreign nations, which they owed nothing to. Regardless, these Caribbean soldiers fought, often doing work considered too dangerous or too strenuous for white soldiers, digging trenches, building roads and rail lines that kept them within range of German artillery and snipers, and extinguishing fires in flammable ammunition dumps. These men and women will never be fully identified, but hopefully those accredited will be solidified in the hearts and minds of others.
Smoking medical marijuana is not yet legal in the Buckeye State, but patients who travel to Dr. Thress look into and talk about this drug. Thress says, quote, I've been seeing patients since June, probably 1,000 or more patients. I'd say about 75% of them come in here saying, this stuff really works, end quote. According to Thress, about 21 diagnosed medical conditions may be treated with medical marijuana. A company called Ohio Marijuana Card says there is room for more. Thress says, quote, there's a lot of people that are suffering from insomnia, severe anxiety, social anxiety, depression, that they can't get this prescribed or recommended them because they don't have the other diagnoses, end quote. With this being said, expanding the list looks to be a good idea by the Ohio residents and other medical doctors whose names are not mentioned.
Protests have been planned across the country following the firing of Attorney General Jeff Sessions by Donald Trump. Protesters argue that, quote, the move could limit the scope of the investigation into Russian meddling in elections, end quote. Trump has feuded with Sessions in the past over the investigation, and on multiple occasions referring to the investigation as a witch hunt to undermine the legitimacy of his presidential appointment. Protesters are calling for the interim Attorney General, Matthew Whitaker, to recuse himself from overseeing the investigation. Whitaker is a Trump loyalist who defended the Trump Tower meeting with Russians and expressed concern that the Mueller investigation could damage the president and his family.
A campus club has been working with and supporting local underprivileged children.
Here's Michael Langford with the story.
Sorry. Simon says, take your right hand and put it on your right ear.
So this is Mini Muskies, and basically every Tuesday we come to St. Francis de Sales, and we're all paired with a buddy. So we do activities with them, mostly education related, and we're just kind of there for, you know, kids that don't have a huge support system at home or something like that. You know, we're just there to be their friend, there to hang out with them, and by the end of the semester they get really close to us, so it's really cool to see that gradual transition to being closer friends with them. I've been doing it since my freshman year, so this will be my second year doing it. They had like tabling outside of Fenwick, and I just kind of picked up a flyer for it and just applied for it because I thought it sounded pretty cool. And I ended up loving it, so I did it again this year. Buddies are actually selected usually before we even meet them. So at the very first meeting, we all get paired with our buddies, and it's kind of fun. We like do a little activity to meet them, and then you just kind of learn to know who they are and their likes and dislikes. So then you just automatically become closer with them. So there's not really a process where we like pick a buddy. It's more so like we just are assigned to them, and we just try to get close to them as best as we can.
It's actually a really neat experience just working with kids in general. So we are here to provide support and be a mentor to them, but it's really neat to kind of see how they influence our lives as well. So I've just learned to be really patient with kids. I've never worked a lot with kids, so this is one of my first experiences besides babysitting. But they are just little bundles of joy, and they see life in a completely different aspect. And just being able to see how they view different situations and deal with them is really neat, and you learn a lot from them as probably they are learning from us.
It's sometimes kind of sad for some of them because some of them are in 5th grade, so they're not coming back next year, or some of them move away, so we won't get to see them again, so some of it get pretty emotional, but it's cool that we get to like wrap up the year with them with a little party.
It's pretty emotional when you're kind of saying goodbye for your last time and you don't know if you're going to see them again. It's a good feeling, and it's a sad feeling as well, because you're also able to see the kind of impact that you've had on their lives, and they might not say thank you all the time or kind of show that they are appreciating that you're here every Tuesday. So it is very sad to be leaving them, but it's also really neat to see their growth and be able to look at them and be like they've come such a far way, and so have I as an individual. And it's just really neat to kind of see how they have grown within the past year. And although it's a sad goodbye, it's kind of reassuring to know that there are endings, but there are also good beginnings.
As we get closer to the end of the fall semester, students here at Xavier are anxious about rooming. On the other hand, the university's first RA meeting is coming up November 12th. Instead of worrying and paying tons of money on housing here at Xavier, the RA application deadline is just around the corner. The meeting will take place in Erupt Overlook, and there should be 4 meetings before the application is due. They are due January 23rd, so even if you don't get accepted, there will still be time spring semester for housing accommodations. With all of the priority and pay for being an RA, it's a wonderful thing to do here at Xavier.
The improvisational club, Don't Tell Anna, is performing this Friday at 9 p.m. in Xavier's Kennedy Auditorium. Much like Detroit's Planet Ant or Chicago's Second City, Don't Tell Anna specializes in impromptu comedy, where suggestions from a live audience are used to create scenes not scripted or rehearsed prior to showtime. This type of comedic performance employs a large amount of creativity and is quite hard to replicate. Big names like Tina Fey, Amy Poehler, Chris Rock, Kevin Hart, Will Ferrell, and Steve Martin all began their careers in improv. These individuals are masters of their crafts and some of the funniest comedians to hold a mic. Although it may seem so, improv is not easy. You either have it or you don't. There is no teaching funny. Last week I attended the show, and I must say, these students definitely have it. I highly recommend attending this Friday at 9 p.m.
All right, that's all from the news desk, people.
We'll be right back with Lucas Robinson's Xavier Sports Report.
Hello again, Musketeer fans. I'm Lucas Robbins, and this is the Xavier Sports Report. This past week, the Xavier men's soccer team was in an absolute nail-biter for the Big East quarterfinals against Marquette. Junior Derek Odom scored the first goal early off of a pass from Simon Hesnes, but Marquette fought right back with back-to-back goals. Finally, Samson Sergey answered with an equalizing goal towards the end of the game off of a pass from Simon Hesnes. With a 2-2 draw during the play, the game went to penalty kicks, and despite 4 straight converted PKs to start, Xavier lost 7-6 as Marquette's Big East goalkeeper of the year, Luis Barraza, saved the final 2 penalty kicks. The team might have lost in the quarterfinals, but this was a very tough and well-fought season, as the team had 8 overtime games this season, winning 1, losing 1, and drawing 6 of them. With so many tight games, this season could have swayed either way, with a little bit more of luck in either of those games. But the Musketeers' spirit and endurance this season was tested, and they still prevailed with their 6th straight Big East tournament appearance. Now that's something to celebrate. While the men's soccer season might be over, the women's basketball season has just begun, and they opened this season this past Wednesday against Chicago State. The Musketeers have never lost a home opener at Cintas heading into this game, and that didn't change on Wednesday night, as the team won 91-57. Sophomore Deja Ross led the scoring effort with a career-high 22 points behind an efficient attack behind the arc with 4 of 7 shooting in the 3 points. And freshman Ayanna Townsend had an impressive career debut with perfect shooting night with a 6 for 6 for 15 points and 8 rebounds along with 4 blocks. The team as a whole dominated, not just in the scoreboard, but also in all aspects of the game, as they had 6 more rebounds, 18 more assists, 7 more steals, 5 more blocks, and 11 less turnovers than their opponents. Heck, this was the most the team has scored in 3 years. Now they'll look to build off such an amazing game at the Cintas Center, 6 p.m. this Sunday against Tennessee Tech. While the women's team had an impressive start to their season, the men's basketball season added another perfect home opener record in Cintas last Tuesday versus the IUPUI Jaguars. Now, the Musketeers had a tough test for their first game, as IUPUI fought hard in their first half to turn an initial 18-point lead to a slim 3-point lead at halftime. But grad transfer forward Ryan Wheelage ignited Xavier's offense that went back-to-back threes and eventually led the team with 24 points with a dominant 3-point shooting performance of 6 of 13 shots. He, along with Tyreek Jones's 17-point, 6-rebound, and a team-leading 4-steal game, Najee Marshall's 13.7 assist game, and Hanky McSpanky's physical 7-rebound and 5-block performance created a phenomenal front court performance that impressed yours truly. Zach Hankins' hard-nosed style, along with Ryan Wheelage's stretch 4 range beyond the arc, and Kyle Castlin's 8 rebounds as a guard seem to be very welcome additions to the Xavier core and have already had an immediate impact. And because of that impact, Xavier was able to impose their will in the second half and win 82-69. Gifting head coach Travis Steele his first career regular season victory. Now, while that victory was impressive, the team must refocus next up the Evansville Purple Aces are this Saturday at 4 p.m. in the Cintas Center. Best of luck to all of our teams this upcoming weekend. Have an amazing weekend, Xavier, and as always, let's go X.